for staying back. Long sessions, great learning. Happy to share my knowledge also with you all. So I'm here to talk about some of the BI and reporting options and high level approach and strategy we can build for getting the information. While D365 finance and operation is great to transact, to use it as an ERP system, we would like to highlight what all BI tools are there and how everyone can benefit, whether it's customer, partner, and users in this journey. So we'll spend 4 sections, which is around requirement collections, what we should do in terms of requirement collections at a high level, not to go too deep dive. Then we'll discuss about few strategy, what can be done, what cannot be done, some pros and cons. And of course, this is a kind of a high level guidance sharing, knowledge sharing that is being done here. This is strategy building is of course an art where you'll have to probably do some tailoring with respect to specific business needs coming from the customer. I would like to cover all the options and maybe call out some SWOT analysis, right? What are its strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats around it. So all the different options out there. And then would like to end my part of the knowledge sharing by giving a visualization. Picture may speak 1,000 words, and we'll try and give you an end-to-end big picture of the strategy as well as the options that are out there. And hopefully finish this up by 45 minutes, and then we'll have the remaining time for Q&A. We'll start with the requirement collections. We'll focus more on a couple of different high-level areas that we need to essentially focus more. And as part of requirement collection, the segmentation of this requirement is important. And this is more from a BI and reporting standpoint. So the first section that is very important are all the real-time reports, right? Customers who are migrating from AX 2009, AX 2012, or from other legacy ERP applications, right? Real-time reports plays a very significant role. Usually the expectation there is immediate or maybe a couple of seconds. That's the expectations around them. And a lot of times, right, there could be certain solutions that the customer might already be using, or if they're not and they are totally moving to D365, then what are the options? So again, I'm combining a little bit of a strategy here as well. So if there is a ton of reports that the customer is already having, and this is on their reporting platform, it could be based on their data warehouse, or it could be on some on-prem. And I'm taking the D365 FNO purely on the cloud version as the basis for the entire presentation. So then there could be an opportunity to bring in a hybrid approach where some of the existing reports can be reused. And this is more to retain the investments, to ensure the return on investment is quick, and also to keep the overall implementation a little less riskier. And that way make it more agile, and then gradually move on to the D365 platform for reporting. This is for real time. The other approach within the real time is, if there is not much significant effort or assets out there in terms of reports, then certainly move on to the SSRS reports within the D365. Now, this is important that, the easiest way to do it is to build either custom reports or extend the existing ones, or utilize, always first anything that's out of box. This way, your reports are always going to get accurate data, immediate, without any latency, any delay, right? And if there is any container or truck waiting outside, you're not going multiple hops before you print a report and hand it over to them. But that's where this real time becomes very important. Now, you will always have to think about the analytical reports, right? A lot of times, if customers have been used to using real-time reports in the analytical way, then you may have to revisit each one of them. And at some times, this may be needed to be rebuilt, right? The immediate aspect there is the moment it is analytical, it's aggregated, we got to have some sort of breakdown to make it ensure that what is real time is only taken to the real time, and The other is still kept on the overall BI part. So this is real time. The others are non-real time, or certain times it is also called as near real time, right? Where a lot of customers will expect information and reporting in minutes, right? Now, even if it's entire cloud architecture or it's a hybrid architecture, it's cloud and on-prem both involved, there is going to be some amount of lag involved, and this may be due to the data that is changing boundaries, or it is changing different tools, or any processing that's happening, any aggregation. So this is all part of the data warehouse aspect, which is where you may either build SSRS reports outside, but that does mean having a separate data warehouse outside as well, or essentially develop cubes in different ways that are out there. The last one is essentially access to historical reports. Now, a lot of times customers come with a need that even though we move on to a new ERP, they do want historical reports to be combined with the current D365 FNO reports, right? Whether it is real time or near real time, or it could be analytical reports. They do want to see these historical reports. And for that, the approach there is to take these reports, these really will belong to near real time, to take it through the analytical approach to the cube based, and ensure that that data you do selective mining on it, so that you don't essentially bring everything on, but rather bring it selectively what's needed. So these are the three segmentation of the reports that we typically do, and I am keen to essentially see the count, and it should be like a pyramid model. You should try and keep your real-time reports to the minimum as possible, and probably your near real-time should be more. Right. With that, I'll take to the BI strategy. Now, usually it could be a big bang approach. Some customers are okay to do it as part of the ERP implementation itself. Some customers want to do BI or basic reporting initially and then do BI. It does make sense to definitely have a BI strategy in place, irrespective of when it's done, right? The planning phase of the project. I want to essentially take a phase-wise approach. It's less riskier, more manageable, more controllable. The customers essentially see light at the end of the day earlier. Reports at their hands. You get earlier feedback, and reports always keeps changing because the business need may also change, and hence going with the phase-wise approach here. Initial approach, I'm taking an approach of a hybrid to retain existing investment done, wherein the approach here is to leverage any existing BI tool which is out there, and this is only applicable a hybrid approach where there is an existing BI architecture, tools, solutions, apps being already in use. And in that case, you can retain them as much as possible and then bring the FNO data as a new data source to it. OK, how to do it? I'll cover that in the visualization as well as in the strategy more. What it does is any investment done in the infra or in the apps or in the knowledge retention of the people, that's all kept as it is. And that's where it's faster ROI on the hybrid approach. Now, this does mean any flexibility or anything too much of customization is done over a period of several years for the end users, by the customer IT team or by the partner who's with them. That remains intact, and you only add incremental data to the existing framework which is out there. So this is the initial phase. You can call it, let's say, the groundbreaking stage. The second one is really the one where you will add more value and take them fully to cloud. Now, this is where you will use more of the Azure tools, whether it could be Synapse Analytics or the data functions that are out there. This way, all the information that's available is all at the cloud, and then you will be using the latest cloud tools to implement it. Right. Now, if in case any customer is not that heavily using BI tool initially or during the migration as part of their legacy ERP, then you can directly move to the cloud approach. That's also one of the ways. Now, this, of course, is not to be taken as it is. It is to be evaluated based on the appetite of the project, of the the size of the project, and how it has to be phased out. So some of the BI options which are out there, there are a lot, and some of them have some benefits over the other or pros and cons. First, we'll call out what all options are there, and there are a few more that I'll add towards the end. So existing, I'm starting with BYOD, which is bring your own data warehouse. It was quite popular. It is popular still. A lot of customers who are using D365 when it initially came out, right? Then the other option is around the Azure Data Lake. This is the current and the future promising option that everybody is looking into, and this is where we have seen Microsoft also investing a lot. Third is the entity store, which is out there, which is the aggregated data warehouse. Though there is, we'll talk about scenarios where it can be used, cannot be. Then there is the SSRS. We talked about the real-time reports, and so those are the SSRS reports as well as the financial report, which is the management reporter, which is still out there. There are talks about and work going on for some optimization of the financial reports further on. Then some customers also, while looking around information and collecting data, they do come across Dataverse. While it does have some information of the FNO as well as other D365 apps, that's also potential. We'll talk about where it can be used, cannot be used. And then there is another way, which is the electronic reporting. Some of the compliance related ones, it's a great tool to leverage as well. These are some of the options. Few more will come, but these options will go a little bit deep dive onto it. So with respect to BYOD, right, it uses multiple ways, right? You have you can have customer own Azure subscription and deploy in Azure SQL, and then push your data entities to the data management framework, right? And it is batch control. You do have change management, change tracking available. So it does, it really work well. And once it is in Azure SQL, you can then connect it with Power BI, whether it is cloud or whether it's the Power BI desktop app, or you can use it further on, take it to another data warehouse, either on the cloud or on-prem, and use it that way. So this was a step to get the FNO data onto a more controlled database or an environment, BI environment for the customer. However, there is discussion around it with being deprecated. There will be a roadmap, right? It won't be done immediately. So that's something to be looking out for. Then we have Azure Data Lake. This is where most of the time I've heard Microsoft suggesting it. It's the one that is really the one that's getting a lot of traction on the roadmap also. And it is using microservices to push the data, right? You can push data entities or tables. So that's a great combination. Certain times data entities might not be there for a few tables, so which was a limitation in BYOD out of box. You might have to then do extensions and build it and push it. The other thing is it is aiming to go towards near real time. It's currently a few minutes apart, around 10-15 minutes, but the intent we have heard going to be reduced much possible then. It does have the change management tracking. And then the other good part of Azure Data Lake is it's not just one repository of D365 FNO data, but you can also host AX2012 data over there. You can also host other kind of data in that data lake. This gives a tremendous flexibility on the consumption of data during reporting. So whether it's near real time, whether it is the historical reporting or regular transactional reporting, this ability to pull the information from data lake from different data sources makes it really flexible. The entity store on the other end is the internal data warehouse. It's super for using the embedded Power BI analytics, right? The workspaces and the analytical workspace that are out there. It is possible to create your own embedded workspace. It does have to go through the development routine. However, the kind of limitation is it is limited to the user, right? You'll have to be a user within the finance and operation because it is open from it. It doesn't give us the flexibility which maybe BYOD or the Azure Data Lake will give, where you can have any other tools to work on the data once it is outside. The other side, the SSRS reporting, this is great, even though they are real time. It really doesn't put a lot of workload on your production database. It runs on a ROS read-only secondary, so you can potentially build a lot of them as needed. Of course, the transactional one. It is extensible, right? Whether it's new or existing one we are doing. And then there are additional improvements in terms of using the document management framework, the business document framework. This is really to get good formatted documents, whether it's purchase order, sale orders, really with the external parties, make it better looking. And then you also have the management reporter. This is the combination of FRX and financial insights that is available. And this certainly continues to be a great tool. On the customer side, if in case a customer is using multiple D365 apps, right, there is some sharing of data among it, then it's great to use. What I have understood, and maybe it could be point in time, it had limitations of 10 GB, which for a lot of data warehouse project, that's a pretty small size to look at. Like some customers are having terabyte of data and then the transactional data. So the data warehouse database itself also becomes huge. So this does limit one on the database side, one on the entities that are available to utilize. However, if for certain applications, it could be leveraged. And then electronic reporting, right? Great for the compliance related one, all the taxation related documentation, not just for outbound, but it can also be utilized on the inbound, where you have some bank documents and other stuff that is needed that can be achieved through it. What I'll do is I'll take through some of the timing aspect. In the BI world, time is very important. Which option gives what time is available at what frequency or latency, that will help in kind of evaluating it holistically. You may choose to have any one of them or multiple of them. Usually it's advisable and suggest to keep a single source of truth even on the data warehouse side and try not to have too many combinations. So if we look at the timing aspect, the BYOD is really scheduled through batch, so it can be in minutes. Though based on the volume, it may be that minutes may vary between 2 minutes to X number of minutes based on the volume. The data lake, I've called out, it's still in minutes. It's using the framework, still like 10 to 15 minutes. I've written seconds there. It's probably my expectation to see that in seconds when it comes to near real time. This will solve a ton of problem for a lot of customers who need near real time, like within 5 minutes. And that way the data lake approach option will become rock solid with that. Store, again, that's also, it could be done through the batch and it is in minutes. This could be used for near real time. The only factor there is limited to the insights or visuals that you can see within D365. So if you have an extended team who are not probably FNO users, but need to consume information in terms of reporting and analysis, then entity store will probably feel short. The only one which is at present at the seconds level, or almost immediate, is the SSRS reports, and financial reports are few minutes apart. It's not exactly seconds, but the SSRS one is the second. Database, again, same. It will be through the batch or to the framework that's there, the data management tool, right? So it will be minutes apart. And same goes with the electronic reporting also. These will be minutes apart. So why this time factor I gave is it's a key identifier in terms of selecting the option and trying to see where which option will essentially give most of the reporting out. So if in case you have a customer who have X hundreds of reports and a lot of them, when you look at it, and if they are okay to go with minutes level, then and if you want to be current and future ready, then Azure Data Lake will be the ideal place to go. Because then on the Azure, there are so many different apps and solutions that are out there that you can use for reporting. Certain times, some other customers also discuss choices, and I've just given high level like question mark or a green tick that you should consider for your reporting options. So for BYOD and Dataverse, really with the limitations or the potential deprecation that may happen in future, it should be taken with caution. Others are definitely out there to be leveraged with maybe double tick mark on the Azure Data Lake. I do want to call out two other things, which is at top right. Though there is for integrations, you might have heard about OData, but for certain small reporting purpose or quick insight, it can also be used as long as volume is not small. And then for certain other business scenarios, Power Platform is also great. And in this case, I'm referring to the Power Apps, essentially, that can be utilized. The Power BI anyway cannot directly access the FNO database, right? So either you will use it through BYOD or ADL, or the embedded Power BI will be the entity store. And if in case Dataverse can fit in, then you can use the Dataverse also. With that, I'll take through an end-to-end visualization of the overall BI strategy and taking the hybrid approach or the multi-phase approach which is out there, and which different tools you can utilize. So we'll set the stage by looking at what's available on-prem. So I'm using green color for doing all the on-prem, which taking the scenario where you might have an X2012 customer who's on-prem or X2009 or your legacy ERP using customer who's on-prem and moving to cloud, which is the majority of the trend out there. So there could be a situation, and in this scenario, the customer is having some investment in data warehouse and BI tool. So if we take all of their existing structure, there is a data warehouse in the on-prem, then there are reports that are built based on either cubes or we may have a combination of end user interfaces, whether it's Power BI or Excel. Essentially everything getting some direct data, whether it's real time or whether it's taking aggregated from the data warehouse. So what we do is we take the most preferred approach is the ADL. So we'll take ADL over here, the Azure Data Lake. It's always good to keep it within the private managed links so that it's more secure. And you will get a trickle feed, as mentioned in the previous slide. It's a few minutes. And then your finance and operation will become, the data will be available there. And you can bring in either from the data entities or tables. So essentially everything, like master data or transactions. Now this is one source. Now we can bring in the other sources also into the Azure Data Lake. But if we take the first approach, which was hybrid, and utilize the existing BI architecture of the customer, which is out there on-prem, then what you can use is the Azure Data Factory, which is within the Azure Synapse Analytics suite, and take this data from the cloud through the Azure Data Factory, through these pipelines, down to the on-prem, where again, as I mentioned, right, the rework on the reports is minimal, but at the same time, your D365 FNO data is now available on-prem. And the way is through ADL, through Azure Synapse Analytics, and the Azure Data Factory down to the on-prem. If in case, right, now this will solve the near real time or the regular reporting needs. For again, there is one more aspect, which is the near real time, right? So you can use directly the Synapse tool and leverage the Power BI to essentially get the FNO data. So it could be, for quick information, it could be through a Power App, but for most of the time, we might use Power BI, connected to via Synapse, and then get access to the Azure Data Lake data. This way, anything that's needed quickly in few minutes, you can have it. In the previous example, when the data factory was used, it will take some time from cloud to get processed to the data factory to the on-prem. And then within on-prem also, right, there will be a lot of aggregation or stuff that's happening before the data can be consumed. So this way, your regular reporting, historical reporting, as well as the near real time gets addressed. In this structure, the real time is not brought in because real time is only through the FNO, through the SSRS report. In case the historical reporting, you can bring in the X2012 also, and it could be done as one time, or you can keep it refreshing during the implementation also into Azure Data Lake, and then use this information in two different ways. One, maybe you first bring the Azure data X2012 database to Azure Data Lake and still keep the existing on-prem BI architecture, and then now, in this case, take both the data from FNO as well as X2012 to the on-prem via the Azure Data Factory, right? If in case your BI strategy is to go fully cloud, then you don't need the on-prem. You can directly use via Synapse and then build all of your information out on Power BI. So that way, your data source will all come from data lake via two different segments which are out there, and not just these two. You can probably host as many other legacy database out there. So with that, I'll take to the option of once you are ready to consume it, your Synapse will then essentially become your key endpoint to essentially feed all of your end user reporting tool, which is Power BI, or even to use this data, not just for reporting, but for doing a lot of advanced structures, like you may want to take it for machine learning or AI, or use it for IoT purpose also. Being on the cloud, you can then expand and utilize all of the Azure tools that are out there. I'll call out two different things. There are a lot of times questions around it. So like Synapse is great to get the ADL data. However, there are like two options out there. There is dedicated pool as well as there is serverless, right? So you can do either way, or you can do a hybrid, right? Essentially, the differentiating factor, deciding factor comes to the end user need and also the cost factor, right? Apart from the solution over here. So serverless, as the name suggests, right? You will be probably sharing it on a like it's platform agnostic in terms of you don't need to worry, and the data might be co-located with other customers' data, but so it's lower cost and it's little response time also slower. But then it comes with a lower cost. However, if your business case for the BI reporting for maybe all of the reports, or there are always certain reports which needs to be fast and which maybe for management, maybe for important decision making, you take a dedicated pool, and this will address all of the critical business need, which means you're taking a data warehouse unit higher. There are multiple choices in that from 100 onwards, and this definitely means a higher dollar value as well. So two choices around that. Now, if in case for any reason you have to get the data down from a cloud to on-prem, the Azure Data Factory is a great way to make it mechanism to exchange that data. Basically, it could be used from one way also by taking the information from Azure Data Lake to the on-prem servers, or you can do it vice versa also, right? If in future, right, you have moved all your ERP, but there are some legacy applications still with the customer which are on-prem, and that all needs to combine with the overall reports, then you will still use the Azure Data Factory, get those data from the on-prem into the cloud, maybe into ADL, and then use through Synapse on the other end user tool like Power BI. Okay, so I think that covers all that I had. Maybe it's done early, not 45 minutes, 30 minutes. So we can use this time for questions.
Thank you, Rahul. That was actually time well spent, actually. I think within that period of time, you've actually covered everything. So yes, I think let's check if there's any questions in the chat. There are no questions. I think you've covered some important information around the potential deprecation of the BYOD and then the other options as the platform evolves. So I think you actually laid it out very, very well, to be honest, Rahul. I think you've kind of helped a lot of people to understand the challenges when it comes to F&O and the considerations for reporting, which often people don't realize, especially on the F&O stack when it comes to the database and the certain constraints you have. So first of all, I have to say thank you. This is a really, really, it's actually, to be honest, you actually exceeded my expectation. I know it's crazy to say that, considering you've done so many of these great sessions in the past as well, but I think you really hit the nail on the head. So let's see if there's any other questions. And if not, what we'll do, we'll actually hand over to Dan, because that's actually the last session. So we'll wait a couple more minutes, Rahul, if that's okay, to see if there's any other questions. But you were very comprehensive in your presentation, to be honest.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm happy to share the real world challenges as well as the solutions that we have been using.
Yes, I mean, look, you're not a fast track architect for no reason, right? I have to say congratulations, by the way, Rahul.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So anyway, guys, so if there's no other questions, we will hand over to Dan. So once again, Rahul, please share your contact details if anyone wants to keep in touch with you. I have to say you are probably one of the most foremost people. You're based in the US, and you are leading some of the largest F&O complex implementations out there. You're the author of the book for implementing Dynamics 365. You can get that on Pact Publishing. There's actually a discount code I will share for that as well. And also lots of great feedback from Ian and from Verma. Everyone saying thank you for a great session. So thank you, Rahul.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you so much. I don't know if Sohail has a question. If he has his hand up.
He has a question on any idea when BYOD will be deprecated? Okay, well, I don't think anyone's got a final date, a clear date, really, do we, Rahul, on that?
Yeah, my thought around that is you're spot on, Raj. There is no date as such, but my thought process is Microsoft won't turn the switch off immediately. We will get at least I'm thinking 24 months at least to transition over, because that way, whether you take a smaller approach or you take the big bang or phase wise, you will get sufficient time to build. It's not just the reports, but your entire data warehouse, everything you may have to build, and the architecture around using the data lake.
Excellent. Okay, Sahib, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, does Rahul works at the Microsoft? If that's correct, then probably like to provide him some feedback.
No. Rahul is a fast track architect. He was awarded the award for Microsoft Fast Track Architect Award that was announced this month.
Right. Okay. Great. That's fine. I thought he's from Microsoft, so I can probably provide some of the feedback.
Oh, yeah. Just to mention, I'm not Microsoft. I'm not with Microsoft anymore. I used to be. Great company, great people. But I do have I have my own organization, and we try and help customers in this journey.
Thanks, Rahul. That was a great presentation from architecture point of view.
Most welcome.
Excellent. Okay, then. So without further ado, Rahul, because I know you're a very busy man. Okay, so we will. Oh, sorry. There's one question. So I think since there's one question, let's at least get that one question out of the way. So Apurov has asked the question. Any idea when the derived table in F&O will be available for export to Data Lake?
Yeah, I'm waiting. All customers are waiting for it. We haven't got a commitment, and you don't really get that early enough until it's really rock solidified within Microsoft, right? It's coming to closure or it's ready for early preview. It's probably not expecting seconds. Maybe the time may be reduced to just a couple of minutes initially, but seconds is my wish list, and that will help the customers a lot.
Great. And the final question from Ian is real-time data feed to Data Lake live soon?
Oh, right. I was saying on the same line. It's not the real time that is available. It's really the schedule that's available at present. There are work going on. I've heard they're trying to reduce it, but real time, I doubt it may be near real time. Like even a minute will be great to achieve.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, it looks as though we've answered all the questions. So yeah, thanks. Also, Horso is saying thank you very much. Now they have a good understanding of BI options for F&O. So I think everyone has been a huge value to everyone on this call. So I think you really are adding a huge value to the community, Rahul. So thank you so much once again, joining us all the way from the States on those big implementations that are happening in the States. So once again, thank you, Rahul.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Always a great pleasure. Fantastic. Okay. So now we're wrapping up on the last session of the day.